All righty, I see we have all of our guest panelists, so we are ready to get started. And once again, I want to welcome everyone to Ask the Experts. Today's date is September the 9th, 2020. And if you guys are like me, 2020 has been a phenomenal year. Regardless of everything that's going on, we are still excited that God had graced us to be able to gather here today. I'm so excited to have our guest panelists with us, and you guys are gonna learn later on in the show why I said this one is near and dear to me. The webcast is being broadcast by the AK Legacy Foundation. So I'll kind of get into that in a little bit and give you guys a breakdown. But I want to let my co-host know that you have the ability to unmute yourself, turn your cameras on and off. That way you can monitor your background noise and things of that nature. And we even have a special guest. I see Miss Carrie has someone that we're gonna hear from as well. She has a little helper on today. That is so awesome. And so let's dive in, let's get started. There's so much to talk about. I'm sure we won't get to all of it. When I was writing out my questions last night, I was like, this should have been a 2-hour webcast, but we'll get started, get right in. And I want to say welcome to Kimberly and Carrie and Dr. Demetrice. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule. I don't even know how y'all fit me in. I just feel honored. So we're going to get started. This is Ask the Experts. And so if you've been following the show for any number of time, you always know that we always start with a mystery question before we introduce our guest. That gives everyone a chance to kind of break the ice, loosen up, check their microphone, get their good side on the camera, So this is why we do the mystery questions. And of course, because it's fun. Our panelists have no idea what I'm going to ask them. So put the seatbelts on, let's get started. So I want to start with Ms. Kimberly. So we're going to start with you with the mystery question. Pick a number between, how many do I have? 1 and 4. Pick a number between 1 and 4, and I'm going to ask you your mystery question.
3.
3, all righty. All right, number 3. Okay. What does our local government or government agencies contribute to the cause of prematurity?
That is a great question made just for me. So my organization, Saul's Light, works with local government to bring awareness to NICU issues and the journey that's facing the families as well as healthcare providers. And so one thing that we worked with local government on last year was creating a resolution recognizing September officially as NICU Awareness Month.
All right, great. And Kimberly, we're going to talk a little bit about Saul's Light a little bit in the webcast. I do have the link, and I do want to show everyone what Saul's Light is all up to. And just so that you know, a bit of good news, hopefully, next year, I know we featured Saul's Light in May or June of this month on our website. But once I learned that I went on your website and I saw that September was National NICU month, I was like, oh, so next year in September, we're going to feature you guys again. So you will be the charity spotlight for next September, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, so I'll make sure that the board pencils that in and that we get that recorded. All right, so Miss Carrie, mystery question for you. She's already taken number 3, so either 1, 2, or 4.
1.
1. All right, number 1. Do you believe that prematurity is linked to financial lack?
I do not believe that prematurity in all cases is linked to financial lack. I can speak from my case. I had the availability to have the best medical, staff. I had everything. I had financial, ability to have everything that I needed to have a good birth. It was just that I had preeclampsia. So that was something that was kind of unavoidable, as well as HELLP syndrome. So because I had those factors, but I had the finances to be able to make sure that I held my babies in as long as I could. You know, it wasn't anything that I can say that finances affected me. Though there are some that do get affected whenever they don't have the finances, to have the proper care, the proper health care, and they're subjected to providers that may not, look out for them with their best needs, at their heart. So I'm blessed in that aspect, but I was still affected by it. So, but it has been a blessing. So I can't even complain.
Right. And thank you. And that is so true. I've seen it on both sides. I've seen successful, I've seen educated, uneducated, I've seen Black, white, Asian. This affects women and children of all races, all colors, all social backgrounds. But we will get a chance to kind of highlight how it does affect the African American race at a higher rate. And we'll kind of get into that in a little bit, but it is so true. Blessings come in all shapes and colors. And so we're going to hear more from Ms. Carey and her amazing story. We're going to let her tell her own story. So we're going to hear from her in a little bit. Okay, Dr. Demetrice, it's up to you, number 2 or 4. Let's see, did I lose her? I know I had her on here. Let me make sure I didn't put her back in the waiting room. Let's see. Oh, she's in the waiting room. Okay, we're going to give Dr. Demetrice a moment to be able to log back on. Our apologies for having her stuck in the waiting room. A little taste of her own medicine, when you put the patients in the waiting room, Oh, I couldn't resist. All right, so we'll give her a second. All right. Okay, just in case she's having some technical difficulties. Dr. Kimberly, I'm sorry, Miss Kimberly, can you answer one more question for us while we wait for Dr. Demetrice to get, to get on? I'm gonna give you number 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick one for you.
Okay.
All right, let's give some words of encouragement for someone who has suffered a premature loss.
That is a great question, right? Because I'm sure some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and when Dr. Smith gets in and she's going to be letting us know about statistics and things like that, right? Statistics prove that at some point, either we or someone we know is going to experience loss. And so for that mom or for that dad or for that family that experiences loss, I would tell them that, loss is really not the end. The story doesn't have to end there. The meaning and the love doesn't have to end there. So I would just encourage someone that's experiencing loss to, if they could just hold on for one more day, to be able to find that meaning and to find that hope in that journey, and be able to, make something out of it. It might not seem like it's something you can do in the beginning when you're in the midst of it, but time gives us clarity and it gives us discernment. And so oftentimes we find, lessons that we would have preferred not to learn, but now that we know them, what can we do better? And so I think that, finding meaning in that loss is something that we can do better, but you just got to hold on to get to that point.
Right, that hope factor. And so that is one of the reasons why I was so intrigued by Saul's Light. You guys are extending hope, and I'm looking forward to getting a little bit more information from you later on in the webcast, so you can share with us. And I know a lot of times people say when I have my webcast, it's primarily business owners that is our audience, because that's who we target and that's where we started from. But I tell people all the time, those business owners or those that work in those businesses, they have real life things that they deal with. So sometimes we do bring subject matters on that may not be just about finances for the business or marketing strategies or things of that nature, because I truly believe here at the AK Legacy, we believe that the whole person is important. that continues with their home life, their personal life, their business, their family, their faith. If something is out of whack, it will negatively affect your business at some point. A lot of times we come in the office, we flip the switch, and it's showtime. But there are some times when we really need to deal with some of the issues that are, that hinder us at home. And so that's one of the reasons why we pick some of the topics that we do. It is not the norm. This is not the normal setting. But this is something that is needed to be spoken of. And I do want to get in a little bit more about what business owners can do to help, even in Saul's light, help ladies like Carrie, partnering with Dr. Demetrice. So there's so many things that we can do. So we're gonna get on. I see Dr. Demetrice is on. Hi. Sorry you were having technical difficulties, whether it was on our end or your end. Look, look, it never, you always have a great signal up until right before it's time for you to press login. I get it. If you guys could see what I be doing when this camera is off, I'm like, but that's okay. One day we will have a full camera crew, but for right now, it's up to us. We're all in this alone. All right, so Dr. Demetrice, I'll kind of bring you up to speed. We asked some mystery questions, and the ladies gave some phenomenal answers. So don't worry, we saved one for you. Yep, we're gonna put you right on the spot. Let's see which one did not get answered. Okay, great, all right. How has COVID affected you and your family?
Oh my gosh. I quickly became a homeschooling mom, which was never in my agenda, or never in my forecast, to become a homeschooling mom. So trying to juggle 3 kids in a virtual environment has been challenging, to say the least. It also gave us a chance to bond more than what we would have in a traditional environment. So it definitely allowed us more than enough time to be with each other. But we're still kind of learning the ins and outs of virtual school. And so now, even though we're kind of hot and heavy in the midst of COVID, my children still are in virtual school, and school just restarted a few weeks ago. So that has been the biggest life-changing event for me.
Right, I can only imagine. My son is in college, and he's like, "Mom, I can't log in." I'm like, "Dude, you're 19. You know, it's just like all those apps on your phone." And he was like, "No, it's not the same." And so I said, "Okay, let me put my thinking hat on." So my hat is off to you. Anybody that's virtual learning with small children at home, I just can't. And you have what, 3 that are at home? 3 small.
Yes.
You will be in our prayers.
Please.
And so it is not the same. I saw a meme where there was I think she was about 5 or 6 years old, and she was sitting in front of the computer saying, "I don't know how to send an email." And I said, wow. I said, these children are going to be super smart when they're our age, because they're having to learn so much so fast. So we're going to go ahead and get to the next slide, which is going to give us an opportunity to properly introduce our panelists. Let me go back. Hang on 1 second, guys. Here we go with that virtual, those virtual challenges. So let me move this out of the way so I can navigate properly and go back to Dr. Demetrice slide. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have the liberty of reading your bio that was sent over. Dr. Demetrice has a niche experience in women's health and has been engaged in teaching for many years. Currently, she is a family nurse practitioner, certified nurse midwife at Healthy Start Jefferson Parish, a division of the Crescent City Family Services. Demetrice was onboarded to expand clinical services to address infant and maternal mortality within Jefferson Parish. She functions as a key member of the multidisciplinary team assigned to develop action plans to address maternal and infant mortality throughout Louisiana. She connects with Community Action Network partners to develop best practices through interprofessional communication and shared collaboration. In addition, Demetrice is the lead personnel for the Nurse Gabby pilot program for Healthy Start. She is also an evidence-based birth instructor. So, Dr. Demetrice, we are honored to have you here. It sounds like you're super busy, and I know it's not just titles with you. I know I've been following you for some years. I've had the pleasure of meeting you through a classmate, which is your husband, Jabor, and I remember telling him years ago, I said, I am so proud of you. And the reason why I said it, because I went to high school with him. So trust me, we know that God is real. So anyway, so tell him I was poking on him. You know, I'm taking full advantage of poking at him. But he has always been, even then, he was always a loving person, you know, just fun to be around, very positive, very positive. I don't think I've ever seen him angry, and I'm sure he has been, but he has definitely been a positive light. And so we're thankful for him that we get to meet you. So you're
Awesome.
here with us. So, you know, he did one thing right. No. Hey, look, we're going to take all the credit as wives, as women. You know, hey, we're running this show right now. So, Dr. Demetrice, I want to bring up your website really quick, if I can, just for a second. Hopefully it works the way I intended. Let's see. All right, so is your website showing on your end?
It is.
Okay, great. All right, so you all, I wanted to kind of bring up her website because this was my first time ever seeing anything of the sort in all of my years. I have 2 children naturally that are here, and I have 1 child that I lost at 23 weeks at neonatal death. She lived for a day or so and then she passed. And so when I was reading and researching and I saw this on your bio, I was like, oh my God, there is someone else. My story is nowhere near compared, extensive as yours, but we got something similar. And I was like, well, it's no longer hush hush. She has this on a website. And so we kind of want to talk about that. That's going to be one of the things, one of the questions that I have. And I want to kind of bring everyone up to speed. The AK Legacy Foundation is not for AKA. I've had people ask me that. And just coincidentally, that's why your flyer was pink and green, but but that's not why. The AK Legacy Foundation stands for Angelique Catrice. She was my firstborn, and I wanted to do something in her honor. So when I started my nonprofit, even though my nonprofit organization deals with financial literacy and business development, it is still stemming from that because in my experience, it was a lack of finances. And I believe that played a very big part in the way the pregnancy went, the way the care was given to me. I wish, I would have met someone like Dr. Demetrice at that time. I know that I wasn't properly cared for. So one of the things that we do with the AK Legacy Foundation, we push putting people in better financial positions so that they can have access to the things that are of necessity, and healthcare is one of them. But when it comes to female healthcare, oftentimes, it's like, oh, you're just having a baby. You should be able to do everything while you're pregnant. You can save the world and climb rocks while you're pregnant. It's no big deal. And, and it's oftentimes not really taken into consideration the life-changing impact that's going on in our bodies and our minds and everything. So when I went on your website, I was immediately given hope. Oh, there's that beautiful family, you guys. And my classmate, I promise you, this does not come as a shock to me, the way that his family has involved. This was exactly how I would have envisioned him in high school. Just a little long way around, but I would have imagined that this is the way he would have ended up because that's the type of person that he is. And the children, I love watching you guys on Facebook. They are too funny. And, so this gives hope to me that others can do the same thing, especially after knowing your story. Well, not knowing your story, but reading of your story. This definitely gives hope to others. So Dr. Demetrice, we're going to start with you, and then we're going to give the other 2 ladies an opportunity to tell us a little bit. Carrie's going to give us her testimony, and Miss Kimberly is going to tell us all about Saul's Light. So let's get started. Let's see, we go back. Hold on, guys. All right, Dr. Demetrice, One
Yes.
of the questions that I have on our next slide is what not to say. Um, I got to be honest. I have been in this position on both sides. You know, when I lost my daughter, people didn't quite know what to say. They would say stuff, and I'd be like, "Just be quiet." And then I also found myself in that same position. I have friends, family members, church members, coworkers that have had the same loss, and then sometimes I want to share a picture of my grandbaby. I'm a new grandmama, y'all. And
Congratulations.
thank you. She's 5 months old. And I find it sometimes, what do I say? You know, I want to whip out the baby pictures, and I realize she just recently suffered a loss. So Dr. Demetrice, what should I say or not say? Is it okay to share baby pictures?
Thank you, first of all, for having me on the show. I feel honored to be here and to be able to share in this platform. And so this question actually comes up a lot. And Kimberly and I are actually trying to work on a training to put together just for this, because so many people don't know what to say and end up ultimately with great intentions, but it comes off the wrong way. And so a lot of things, sometimes what we don't say speaks much more volume than what we do say. For me, when I was in this situation personally, what helped me the most was hearing from people who actually experienced something similar to mine. They could relate to my story and kind of really feed into what I was feeling. So that helped me in my healing and my recovery process. And then as far as things of what not to say, it's more of the cliches that we hear all the time, God knows it all, or you can have other children, things that are so kind of cliche-ish that you hear, be thankful for the children that you have. Well, I am thankful for the children that I have, but it doesn't replace this loss that that I'm experiencing right now. And even when you have other children, they don't replace the life of the child that you lost. You still carry that with you each and every day. So trying not to rush people through their grieving process, because everybody's grieving process is different. And so you just have to allow that person time to grieve, whether they're mad, they're angry, they're sad, whether they want to look at pictures, whether they don't want to look at pictures, it's all up to that person. And then as far as, if you want to share pictures of your grandbaby or, you can always ask and, just be receptive of the answer and be respectful of that person. If they say, well, no, I'd rather not, look at pictures at this time, or sure, show me the picture. So it's just kind of all in how you approach somebody. And I think, more times than not, silence and just being there as a support shows more than you actually saying something that you mean well, but it doesn't come across well.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for that answer. And I'm sure that this is helping some of our viewers. And I want to thank our viewers for tuning in. Miss Kimberly, did you want to add anything to that? I know she mentioned that you guys were working on a training. So could you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think, like Demetrice said, messaging is really important, and really kind of giving families who experience loss the agency to say what they're comfortable with. I think that will be well received. So, for example, if you want to share pictures of a baby with someone who has experienced loss, it would be totally acceptable to say, "Are you comfortable with this? Would you mind if?" And if they say no, first of all, they'll probably be really relieved that you asked them in the first place, because oftentimes we don't ask, we just assume. And then also when we're dealing with the death of a baby, we tend to think as a society that it's not that bad, right? For a number of reasons. I've heard people say things like, well, you didn't know that baby very well, or you hadn't had a chance to get to know them, or, you don't have a lot of memories with them, or you could just have another baby. So, things like that lead people to believe that the death of a baby is not that bad. And so you're not very affected by it. And so asking people honestly what they're okay with sends the message that their feelings and that their experiences are important and relevant to that conversation. I think that's the most important thing. So I would agree with Dr. Smith about that 100%. What I would add to that is for people that are in that position of having to navigate those waters of, making space for their loss, but making space for other people's joy. I learned this in my own therapy session, is replacing but statements with and. So for example, someone might, say, I'm happy for you and I'm sad for myself. So it doesn't negate your feelings. And it doesn't say that anyone's experience is more important than the other person. But those two things can absolutely coexist. You can absolutely have joy and sadness at the same time. And then I can speak for myself personally. When I see people have babies, I'm totally happy for them. And now that I have a daughter now, she's 3, born after loss, I know, exactly what that joy of parenting and, loving a child and raising a child, I know what that's like. And I think that any parent or person that desires to have that feeling should absolutely have that feeling. And it doesn't mean that my feelings aren't important or that my experiences are important. It just means that, again, both those things can coexist. I can be sad over my experiences, and I can still be happy for you.
Thank you. That is so true. Being on both sides, I can definitely relate. And so I guess I'm learning too, because it kind of puts me, it's like I'm looking at every situation on both sides. And so I'm glad you said and used the word and having the ability and having empathy to allow the person to feel how they feel. And then giving them time, like Dr. Demetrice said, giving them time to navigate through that. So I want to take a second to bring up Solve Light website. And I want to encourage everyone to definitely go and check it out, see where you can contribute, whether it's donation, volunteering, just spreading the website, telling someone else about it, whatever the case may be, just to get involved. And so Solve Light, we featured them on our website. They were the charity spotlight for the month of June. And we will spotlight them again next September. And so this is kind of their website. They talk about long-term goals, how much has they, taken in donation. There's Miss Kimberly, there's a nice picture. Hey, all right. And so here's a board of directors. And I see your husband is one of the board members. You have some friends that are on here as well. Dr. Demetrice is here as well. And so we just kind of I just wanted to give people a snapshot of the website so they can go and find it. And I wanted to just kind of give, shed some light on it while we have everybody on here so help them make a difference in NICU families. And then I want you, when we're going to come back in a little bit, I want you to kind of tell us about what is the NICU. Some people may not know what it is. Unfortunately, I know exactly what it is. I had to go through it twice. The first ended in the death of the child, but the second is my daughter. She's here, she's 24, and she's a new mommy. And so I'm excited, the things that they said, well, preemies don't really have good success with having babies. Well, I have 2 that did survive, and I have one that has now had her own. So the legacy goes on. So I'm excited, as you guys can see when I talk about that grandbaby. I'm telling you, ladies, it's a whole nother world. I know y'all got a long way to go before y'all get to be Gigi. Very long way to go before y'all get to be Gigi. But I'm excited. It's a whole new world. You think you happy now. All right. So all right, I wanted to thank you guys for letting me show that your website, Miss Kimberly. All right. So Miss Carrie, I give you an opportunity to share with us your experience. I know that it said that you're a NICU parent twice. So if you could, in your own words, tell us a little bit about your experience in the NICU, and whatever part of your story you'd like to share, we're here to hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you first off for allowing me to have the opportunity to come on the show today and just share my story and talk to such other, strong and inspirational women who I pull strength from. So thank you so much for having me here with my babies.
Well, that's fine. Look, welcome. You can't put them away. You got to bring them with you. Bring them with you.
So my name is Carrie Monks. I'm a NICU mom of 2. This is Jax. He's a 31-weeker. I have a daughter. Her name is Jim, and I actually had her at 29 weeks. Overall, I spent a long time in the neonatal intensive care unit. It was a journey, 2 different journeys, but I appreciated both of them because I learned from my first journey, and it helped me get through my second experience. And so, like I said, I had my daughter Jim due to HELLP syndrome, HELLP, and preeclampsia. And that experience was, both of them were traumatic, but that one was like scary, unknown traumatic. Both of them had me in an unknown zone. But like I said, I learned from my first experience with Jim. So I knew what to look out for, although I developed preeclampsia with him too, but I held him in 2 weeks longer, almost 3 weeks longer, because he came 31 weeks and 6 days. But Jim was actually born at 1 pound, 11 ounces, and Jax was born at 3 pounds, 6 ounces. So I count my blessings like that because I'm like, he had that extra weight to help him get through, and he literally breeze through the NICU. If you can say that, it was a breeze or that it was a good situation, his was, on his last day, they told me on discharge that, I'm sorry, y'all. He has a stage 1.
You're good.
He has a stage 1, brain bleed. And I was just like, oh my goodness. On discharge day, I get this information. I didn't know anything about it. He had gotten off of oxygen like within a couple of days of him being born. Sorry, let me give him some.
Take your time, Carrie. There's no way.
There we go.
We're learning how to do everything with the kids at home. So
yes, I've been working from home with them since March, and I actually returned back to the office at the end of February. So I had 2 weeks of adult time, and my daughter in homeschool, and I had her in a small homeschooling program because I've always kept them in a bubble since I had her. So I'm all about social distancing and and Lysoling it up. I've always done that just because that's the premature NICU life. You have to keep clean, sanitize, all the above, and stay away if you're sick. So I'm the Preemie Mom coach. I've actually just recently started the Preemie Mom Coach LLC, where I like to reach out to moms and reach out to moms back in the NICU and just kind of help them. I get a lot of moms that just ask me regular questions. Ouch, no biting. He has his top teeth too, so he.
I've already been bit this week by my grandbaby. I was like, okay, you get one shot at biting me.
But yeah, so I get a lot of questions about my experience from moms that are there. With my second experience, I was actually on bed rest outside of the hospital, and then I wound up on bed rest inside of the hospital. But I kind of put myself on there because I called my doctor and I was like, hey, I need to come in. I've checked my blood pressure at home. It's high, it's high for me because I've never had any issues with health, wise. I've always been pretty healthy all my life. So whenever my blood pressure with my second baby was starting to creep up, once I turned 25 or 24 weeks, I went to the doctor and the very next day, and I had them, check my urine and check everything to make sure that I wasn't developing preeclampsia and making it lead to HELLP syndrome. So we monitored my situation very closely with my second experience. I didn't tell y'all with my first experience, I was planning a water birth. I was going to a birth center. I had my midwives. I had everything lined up. It was the perfect birth plan, but it did not go that way, of course. With HELLP syndrome, I felt like I was literally close to death because my body just stiffened up. It was hard to breathe. I felt pain in this area of, my abdomen. I I was on the other side of the house and I had to bang on the door to get my husband's attention because I couldn't speak. I couldn't get my words out loud enough for him to help me. And I just thought that I had eaten something bad and that I can just go to the restroom and relieve myself and I would be fine, just go sleep it off. But I tried to lay down and it just kept getting worse and worse, the pain. So he threatened to have me go to the local hospital, and we don't live near any pregnancy. I don't want to say it's a desert because I live so close to Baton Rouge, but I'm in Gonzales. So I don't know of any, birth centers or anything like that that I would go to. So we drove to Women's Hospital, and that's close enough for me. And they immediately took me in because my blood pressure with Jim was over 220 something by the time I got there. So I knew something was wrong at that time, and my head was hurting really bad. My vision was blurred. I was seeing dots. Everything was bad. So they were like, oh, you have to have an emergency C-section right now, or you and your baby are gonna die, just straight up like that. So I was freaked out because in my mind, I thought that I was gonna be having a water birth with no medicine, nothing like that. So this was a new environment for me because I was going to the birth center for everything. I was taking birth classes 3 hours a day with my husband, just to prepare for having a natural birth. So I was doing thinking that everything was going to be breezy, but it wasn't. It wasn't. Once I got to the hospital, they took me in. I had the C-section. I had her on June 6th. And I was like, please, Lord, no, let her come on June, let's just wait another day. I don't like those sixes. It was like 6/6/16. It's her birthday. So she's a very special girl. She spent 83 days in the NICU, and she came home on oxygen and oxygen in the apnea monitor. And she was on there for about 7 months. We had the sleep studies, we had a lot of different things, but she's doing excellent now. Like I'm homeschooling her. Right. And her brother is just learning so much from her. He'll be a year, October 4th. Okay. So yeah, it's been a journey with both of them. But like I said, just learning from those experiences and just connecting with other moms, because with her, I felt like I was alone, but with Jax, I had a circle to get me through it that much easier. It just softened my pillow, at night. I didn't leave the NICU crying every night like I did with Jim. So that was the difference. And I would encourage any mom, even myself, like if you want to have a baby after a traumatic experience, trust in God that you'll get through it and do it. Because, the only way to get to your blessing is to go through it. So just trust. So that's what I'm telling myself too, as I say, because I would love to have a third child. And I think about those other two experiences, and I know my next one is going to be great, if God allows it, but I'm content. Right. I've been rambling and now hush.
We truly appreciate you sharing our story with us, and congratulations. You said you recently started coaching other moms. That is awesome. So that is so much needed. A lot of times when we think of coach, we think of a financial coach, a fitness coach, a coach for everything. So there is actually a coach for someone to get help. And so I want to make sure that you, before you leave, that we get your information. If someone wants to reach out to you, that you provide that information for us toward the end. So in case we have someone out there, if you know someone that may need her services, please reach out to Carrie. We know that she has a story of triumph. She has the 2 beautiful children with her now, and she's gone through that experience. Like she said, she got through it. And so we definitely want to embrace you and support you. And thank you for being on the show. And don't go anywhere though. So we're going to come back to you in just a second. All right. So I want to take like a commercial break, tell you guys about the AK Legacy Foundation. I know I've mentioned it before, kind of a little earlier, but I want to tell you guys a little bit more. So let's go to the website for the AK Legacy Foundation. And let's see. So when you go on the website, let's see, is it showing for you guys? I have a different view. Okay, great. All right. All right, so let's go to, all right, so one of the things that I want to bring everyone's attention to, let me come down. It's okay for the month of July. My apology. We had Solve Light on as our spotlight charity of the month, and then the button is still there. I'm gonna leave it up through September because when I found out that this was NICU Awareness Month, I said, okay, well, I'll just leave it. So it's there. If you want to give a donation to Solve Light, you'll click this button. It will go directly to Solve Light, and you can follow the steps there. For the month of August, we did Handbags of Hope. That is an organization that will be bringing ladies' purses with toiletry items to a domestic violence shelter on next month. We know that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so we partnered with them. And for the month of September of this year, we're doing the LZ Foundation. They provide school supplies and things for teachers. A lot of times we forget that, you know, we buy all the supplies for the kids, but the teachers oftentimes have to buy things out of their pocket. And trust me, the pay isn't there to really offset this. The reading rug that everybody likes to sit on, that rug alone is about $400 or $500. And sometimes it's not in the budget for the school. So the teachers do what? They save up and they buy those rugs because that's what they want for their classroom. And I don't know if all the stay-at-home moms that are doing virtual, do we qualify for any of that? I don't know. So I was just wondering, I was like, okay, so what are they gonna do now that a lot of parents are homeschooling? Do we get to ask for school supplies and things of that nature? But anyway, so if you wanna invest in the AK Legacy Foundation, there's information about us there. I don't see the page that I wanted to show you guys. It's okay. I don't know, knowing me, let's see. Oh, there it is, the About Us page. The About Us page, so I just want to tell everybody about the AK Legacy Foundation. And so here is a, it's not an actual picture of my daughter, but it's more so of a picture that I saw at a doctor's office. And I was like, that's exactly how she looked to me. And I felt like she's in heaven looking down on us. And so the foundation, like I said earlier, was crafted on the foundation that we want to promote and provide financial literacy and business development for those that would like to start a business so that they can put themselves in a better financial position. And it also includes nonprofits. So everything is not just for profits, but if you want to start a nonprofit as well, anything that's gonna give a better quality of life, we're here all for it. We're here for it. So go on our website, check us out, find out what we're doing. We have several events coming up later on this year. Due to COVID, we did have to change a lot of things that we were planning, but we have since made some changes. And so I'm excited about it. And so I want to get back to our webcast and our guest panelists, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was familiar as to why we are here. Like I said, you know, my first, like you mentioned, people tell you, oh, you're gonna have more kids, but I still celebrate her birthday. I still envision what it would have been with her being here. So we still have that, even though I'm super excited about my two children, my grandbaby. I still have that loss, but it's now in a place where I'm putting it to action, put it into a positive light, so to speak. And so this is why this webcast was near and dear to me, because we were highlighting something that I experienced. This is the first time I've ever even heard of a lot of the services that you guys offer. And so I figured if it was the first time that I'm hearing about it, and everybody knows I do a lot of research. If it's my first time hearing of some of your services, I'm sure others could learn too what you guys are doing. All right. And so we talked earlier about what not to say, of the things, what not to say, and then we talked about what to say. So I kind of jumped ahead of the slide. You know, that kind of happens when you're excited and thankful about things. So I want to talk about our next portion is putting the pieces back together. You know, once you've gone through, like Carrie said, you're getting through the process, whether it's the process of being in the NICU, which I know my daughter, she was, my second daughter, Ashante, she was in the NICU a couple of months. And one of the things was shocking to me, I was there all day, every day. The nurses knew my name. I could have just clocked in and worked. I was there that much. They had to make me go home. And I remember I given birth to her, and you know, they immediately took her to the NICU. And I think up to about the third or fourth day, the doctor said, you know what, we got to discharge you. you still, we got to, I was like, well, that's fine. I'm just going to be right down the hall. And I didn't leave. And so about the 7th day, the nurse came in and she said, well, the social worker wants to talk to you. And I'm thinking she wants to talk to me about the baby. She wants to talk to me about me. And she said, you got to go home. You got to go shower. I was like, going home was not an option. So putting the pieces back together for me was getting on that elevator and leaving her at that hospital with those people that I did not know, did not trust. And I was like, I'm not leaving. I literally got escorted out, so that I could go and see about myself. And so when I left, I was calling every hour. They probably was like so glad when she went home because they got rid of me too. But one of the things that I saw when I was there, and I guess, Kimberly, this is going to be for you. One of the things that I noticed when I was there, I didn't see other moms, and we're in a NICU, and it had to be probably about 10 other babies, about 10 babies in the ward that we were in. I won't call the name of the hospital, but it wasn't you guys' hospital, nowhere. But anyway, there was about 10 babies in there, and I was the only parent that I saw most days. The nurses were really nice. They would come in and, cuddle the babies because that was part of the process. So Kimberly, what happens when people aren't putting the pieces back together and coming in and embracing? Because I don't know if they didn't want, I'm not the person to ask that question because I saw no other option but to be there all day, every day. But there were maybe once or twice I saw another parent, and it was briefly.
So I think that's a really good, observation and question. And one of the things through our work that we try to get like hospital staff and healthcare providers to see is that, when families aren't there, it can be for a myriad of reasons. And it might seem like on the surface that families aren't there because maybe they can't handle the situation, or they don't want to be there, they don't want to deal with it. But we find through our work that that's rarely the case. And so, I can say from my experience and a number of NICU moms that I know, that to actually be present at your baby's bedside and to be involved in their care for the sustained time that it takes is really actually a privilege that is not afforded to most NICU moms and families, particularly in our city. Just based on the economics of our city and the way that people are working and, making ends meet. Their families, there are more children, sometimes it's intergenerational. It's a host of reasons that we find that families aren't there. And so the biggest one is the financial strain that a NICU stay puts on a family. They might experience hardship aside from, whether or not they have insurance or the hospital bills or things like that. But common things that we take for granted, such as having the ability to, put gas in your car to go to the hospital every day. If you have a car in the first place, maybe you're on an unreliable transportation system. Maybe you have to get a cab, so that costs money. Then how do you allocate the funds? If money is tight, are you going to put that money in your gas tank, or are you going to put it on your table to feed your other kids? And so that's why I think that the financial assistance that Saul's Light provides to NICU parents in the community is so important, not only to the family's overall well-being, but also the baby's development. Because one thing that we do know is that when families are present and involved in their baby's care, their babies do better. They have better health outcomes. And so thinking about that, we have to address what are the reasons that families aren't present and involved. And so a lot of times, again, that comes back to finances. And so our goal with financial assistance and hardship grants that we support families with is to make sure that whatever barriers are there, that those are removed. We want families to get there, so we help them get there. We want them to be there. We help them with books to read to their baby. We encourage them to sing, to talk, to be involved. So to change diapers, to do feedings, to talk with the nurses, to do rounding, to ask questions, to actually become that mom that you said that you were. That's how we want all NICU parents to be. You know, we want that when a baby is discharged, that the whole NICU team is happy to see them go, because that mom or that dad or grandparent is there every day, all day. But, you know, we recognize that that's a privilege. And so we want to make sure that everybody that has the desire to be there can actually be there. And so our, you know, our organization is, our main goal is to support parents in doing just that.
And see, that's why I like Solve Light. See, that's it. You're providing solutions, and that kind of ties in the vision of AK Legacy Foundation, that financial literacy piece, you know, finding out who need the services and why, and bridging that gap. I was blessed. My mother, you know, she took me to and from the doctor, to the hospital. My mother was able to take care of me. You know, I was able to move in with her while we go through this whole process. And so that was a blessing that I had, like you said, a blessing that I was afforded. So there are many others who, you know, it's not always that they don't want to deal with it. And I appreciate you bringing that out, Kimberly. It's just lack of getting there. How I'm going to even get to the hospital. You know, once they discharge you, technically you're supposed to leave after visiting hours. I was just that patient that didn't want to leave after visiting hours, but you know, you have to leave after visiting hours. So leaving and coming back, you know, what does that look like? So partner with Solve Light, you all. Even if it's a one-time donation, if you're not able to do it today, think about something that you can save and put away. You know, maybe for Christmas you want to donate, you know, some, you know, $25 donation, something. Just kind of put it on your agenda, because just like she said, as business owners, we do have a responsibility to, well, like I'm saying, we do have a responsibility to our community, the communities that we draw from for our goods and our services. We have people patronizing our businesses, and these are the people that we serve. And at some point, we're the ones needing serving as well. So contribute to organizations like Solve Light. I am totally on board. I do look forward to speaking with you more, Kimberly, and how we can do more at the AK Legacy Foundation. That is the whole purpose of this webcast, to find out where is the need and what can we do to help. So all my business owners out there, I am challenging you all to do something, whether it's small, big, or large, or just blow it out the box. We appreciate it all. And I know that I speak for Kimberly and her organization that they appreciate anything that you can do. So, okay, so Dr. Demetrice, back to you, your time, putting the pieces back together. You know, when people see you, or they see me, or they see others, and we're doing our business, we're, you know, with our family, we're strong in our faith, and we're just thriving. So what they see now, if it didn't happen overnight. So how were you able to put the pieces back together?
Good question. and it took a while to put the pieces back together, and it was certainly not something that I did on my own. I actually sought counseling for it. And, you know, counseling, it's kind of like taboo in the Black community. Like, you know, most people, when they think of counseling or seeing a therapist, like, oh, you know, you only do that if you're crazy. Like, no, like, counseling is so much more than that. It is, you know, I can't speak enough about counseling, to be able to talk to somebody on a professional level that is unbiased, that can give you, you know, an unbiased opinion, and even help you kind of shift your perspective and see things maybe in a different light, give you healthy coping mechanisms, because you will cope one way or another. Whether it's healthy or not is depending on what you're doing. So just being able to bounce those ideas, those thoughts, or whatever your feelings that you're having, and that, you know, you're able to acknowledge them in such a way, you know, that you can speak to somebody on a professional level. And whether that, you know, progresses to whether you need, you know, medications with that, or whether it's just the counseling services, those things are much needed, but they're not talked about as much, especially in the Black community. But it goes so much more for healing. It heals for the person who's actually going through the process. And then once you get to a place where you're healed, and like I say, it's not where you have just forgotten about, the death of a child, or it's to a point to where you can actually, you can function. I'll say that is functional. You don't forget, but you can function, right? And so once you get to that place, you're able to then help other moms and help other people who are in the same position as you. And it's not to say that you won't have your moments, because sometimes, in July, I haven't thought about Tristan in the magnitude that I had, to think about her over the course of a couple of weeks till we did like a podcast. And so when her birthday came around, I was just really, really emotional. So for me, I knew that I needed to make sure that I, did what I needed to do to take care of myself. So seeking, the counseling services to make sure, like, okay, look, I got this going on and this is what I'm feeling right now, and I need to help to process this. So making sure that you have somebody there that can help you process that, and then having a support circle is huge. And that, so whether it's, a circle of friends, whether it's parents that have experienced, other a similar experience as yours, I mean, it helps. Sorry, guys. Whether it's somebody who's experienced a similar situation as yours, or just a friend who's just there to, if you guys just cry or just sit together, just having somebody to support you in that space helps to put the pieces back together.
Yeah, that is so. And when you say in the Black communities, talking about counseling, oh my, you would think this is 2020 and we should be beyond that, but we're really not. We're really not. We're much better than we were. And so I truly believe talking about it, having webcasts, podcasts, just continue to talk about it. I do believe that the next generation will be much better at it than us. Talking about it, the counseling, I think is so imperative. And so that's, like I said, that's one of the reasons why we should partner with different organizations, such as Soft Light or other organizations that deal with prematurity, because counseling does have a cost, but there are organizations that pay for that. And so getting the information out there, making sure, checking on your friends, checking on your coworkers. If you're an employer and you have employees, I challenge you to make that something that's available. Not having, like you said, to go through that process and say, hey, right now I'm really emotional. Being in a space where you can step back, collect your thought, and go through that process. Like you said, we'll never forget, but we need to be functioning, because we do have others that are now dependent on us. But at the same time, as the person, we still want to heal for ourselves. So just being able to put the pieces back together is definitely a blessing. I believe, and above all, that God has given us the mind that we have to keep us from being insane, or to keep us from being, even if we've been suicidal, we did not follow through with it. And so I truly give him all the honor and all the glory, and for our friends and family that we have that rally around her, because without that, I can only imagine where we would be. So putting the pieces back together is a process. And we will have the emotional scars, but I do believe that those heal as well. And healing doesn't mean that we forget. Healing means that we have found our coping mechanism, which is different for everyone. Everyone has a different one. Even if we have some that are similar or the same, we're still going to be different because we're different people. So I truly believe that healing is just means that, hey, I found my coping mechanism, and it allows me to function. I'm a productive member of society, and I'm able to do the things that I'm have to with my children. And in my case, my grandbaby. I gotta give us another shout out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring her on one day. All right, so let's talk about it. So ladies, this is a question for all three of you. So let's talk about it. We know that we are in a time of social injustices being highlighted. COVID-19 has shooken us. We're there. We're in the place that we read about in history books. And we know that our great-grandchildren will be reading about us. So let's talk about some of the things that, well, you guys can kind of decide who wants to answer a question. I have three. I'm gonna try to get through all three of them. We have about 10 minutes left before we wrap up. How can our business assist in communities? How can different business owners, how can they assist in the community in regards to prematurity in the Black community? Guys, dive in however you want to.
Well, I think the biggest way, that other businesses can assist for sure is definitely the financial support with it, whether it's a small donation or a large donation, it all adds up in the grand scheme of things. And so even just recently, Kimberly, and you can let me know if these numbers have shifted or not, just even with the hurricane that we just had last week that affected so many families in Lake Charles. So we have 11 NICU families that we're supporting through Saul's Light right now. So just those donations alone are tremendous. So they need, money for transportation, for gas cards, or, lodging. So those type of things will go a long way with helping to support families who are in the NICU, families who are, whether they're bereaved or whatever their journey is, that will go a long way.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kimberly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is probably the easiest and most useful way to contribute to a cause. But we are a grassroots organization and local homegrown, that's where we want to stay. So having and solidifying long-term partnerships is also very important. There are opportunities for people to volunteer as well, people that have had a NICU experience or bereavement experience and, has done that healing process and wants to share what they've learned with someone that's currently going through it as a peer mentor. That is something that we offer as well. And then for our little libraries, if, for example, people want to share a favorite book or title that they read as a child that they have a special feeling for, we'd love to be able to give that same feeling to NICU parents to share books with their babies as well. So there are a myriad of ways for local businesses to be involved with Saul's Light, but also to be involved with nonprofits in general. I think in the very beginning, you talked about the, kind of communal approach in us taking care of each other and having that empathy to see that everything that we do, our missions are all connected. And so, we are ready and willing to work with any businesses, organizations, and or people in our community to make the experience better for people that are going to go through it.
All right, Ms. Carey, do you have anything you would like to add?
I can't stress that any further than to those connections are really important. Those community partners, the moms like us that just have that experience to where we can connect with other moms that's in that situation that we've been in before. It's just, just having those connections like that personal connection to where, oh yeah, I can tell you about that emotional roller coaster. So having those connections with businesses to have that advocate as a mom or even a father, because fathers go through this just as, just like the moms do. But to have that family member there that can speak to those persons on that personal level, that helps bridge gaps, with the businesses and the community.
Thank you.
And then Candy, before we move to the next question, one more thing that businesses can do, and you kind of touched on this earlier after we answered one of the questions, is making sure that the services are available for your employees. So providing those mental health services through insurance, because it's expensive, especially if you don't have the insurance coverage for it. So making sure that you provide those services, you provide that bereavement time off, for a mom and a dad or somebody who's experiencing that loss. That'll go a long way as well.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, having time off, and I pray that with my staff that I always be mindful. I know a lot of times they say, well, this is business, that's personal, but the person that's working there is a real person who has personal issues. And I believe that if the person is whole, the business would thrive so much better and we can all heal at a much faster rate. So I truly believe in making sure that we allow for the time off. I just pray that God would give the businesses wisdom and witty ideas and creativity and alternative to when someone does have to be out, how it won't be a financial strain on the business, so that they can allow for the time to be off. And I just truly believe that if you have the best of intentions, God will work it out in that regard. So Dr. Demetrice, this question is for you. Does voting, because we're getting ready to vote. So we're talking about topics that are hot. So this is one of our topics, voting. Okay, so should we be voting? And does voting have anything to do with the laws or the way prematurity is handled in our community?
Voting is of utmost importance. Number one, we have so many of our ancestors, just what they went through just to give us the opportunity to vote. So I believe that everyone, if you have life in your body, you should be going to the poll or sending in your mail-in ballot or whatever you need to do to make sure that your voice is heard. The other thing that I would like to just tack on to voting is making sure that you complete that census, because the census is so important, because that's what gets the resources into the areas, and it makes sure that that you're counted. If you don't send that your census report in, and your household doesn't count as far as the resources that are allocated to your area. So voting and completing that census are two things that you need to do today. If you are not registered to vote, get registered today, and complete that census. It's an online process. It is very, very easy. And voting is so important because the people who we put in office, they will, whatever laws that they put in place, or those are the things that will affect us, whether it's directly or indirectly. It will typically affect us. So whether that's healthcare for everybody, whether it's taken away from everybody, whether we're putting certain laws in place to have more access to care, those are the things that our representatives that we vote for, it matters. So everybody should vote. And if you don't vote, I'm going to say shame on you. So everybody should get in there and be registered to vote and go vote, because you can't sit back and complain when you don't go and vote.
Mama Schmidt has spoken. She says everybody got to go and vote. I can feel it. And she was being very modest. She was holding herself back, but she really wanted to let us have it. Y'all better go and vote. So I believe that she'll be monitoring the poll, probably like, hey, did you vote? I could see that. Okay, so Carrie, this question will be for you and for Kimberly. So Carrie, do you believe that, and I guess we'll ask Carrie first. I read an article that spoke about how, and they did a study, and still today, some doctors or people in the medical field feel that mothers of Black race have less pain, whether it's physically, that we can suppress the pain more than our Caucasian mothers. And that they treat us different when it comes to medical attention. Do you have any experience with that, or can you have any, what do you say about that?
Yeah, I'd like to, perfect question. Being that with my last pregnancy, I was actually in the hospital September 19th until October 12th, because I was on bed rest 2 weeks even after having him. So I had a lot of experience in the hospital and just dealing with different doctors, maternal health maternal fetal medical doctors coming in there every morning, giving me, a status and update on my health. Some of their bedside manners weren't as it should have been, whenever you're dealing with a pregnant woman who's already high risk. I would tell my husband, because he was there with me, I would be like, you know what? I felt like one particular time where it was actually the day I had my baby shower in the hospital. So, and it was 2 days after I had my son. And one of the nurses, I guess she felt like, because I was having my baby shower rolled in there in a wheelchair, I didn't need the gentleness that you need after less than 48 hours after giving birth. I needed my bandages removed so I could take a shower after they removed the catheter. And she wasn't gentle at all, and she wasn't helpful and things like that. And I could just tell that her energy wasn't, she wasn't feeling the day. I don't know what the situation was in her life, but I know what my situation was. And I didn't want to piss her off, excuse my terminology, but I was, I needed help. So I didn't want to do anything that if my, that would make her do something that wouldn't be positive, for my health or something like that, which it did turn out to be that way. I had to call the charge nurse. And she happened to be a white female nurse who I didn't feel like was sensitive to my needs. And I had, all the nurses were pretty much white, 80% that I had in there. And they were very good, very pleasant. But this one she just had this attitude towards me. And I felt like, it was because maybe she thought that I was a diva, high maintenance, because I was getting my hair done in the hospital bed and somebody was there, doing my makeup, but they weren't there at that time. She just knew that was happening. And I just felt, I just felt the pressure. I felt like I needed an advocate at that time for me. So my hairdresser who had come in, she's like, you shouldn't be treated like this, Carrie. You just had a baby. And she noticed what was going on. I was in tears. And, you just feel like whenever you're in the hospital for that long, you see that every day is different. You don't see the same people every day. You get the different shifts. So I saw it was a difference in the healthcare treatment. Whenever I got somebody that looked like me, they were very, very, very helpful and making sure that, let me tell you the real. I felt that connection in that aspect, as opposed to this, situation that went the wrong way. I had to actually call the overall patient advocate, person for the hospital to come down and speak to me and then speak to whomever on behalf of me to make things go better. Because I was told that, you should be able to go push yourself to go see your baby. But being that I was still in the hospital dealing with preeclampsia after having the baby, thinking, oh, that's the cure. I'll be out the hospital. I had the baby. Y'all said that, right? But no, if I would talk like this, my blood pressure would raise. So they didn't want me moving. And I wanted to see my baby. But I was told, oh, no, you can get up, push yourself. And then if you feel lightheaded or dizzy, like you've been saying, just sit down and somebody will see you. I feel like if I was a white female, I wouldn't have been told that. Right. So after I spoke up for myself with a lactation nurse came in as I was pumping and I was in tears. And she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I didn't tell her. But my husband's like, oh, yeah, something's wrong. Look at her. And that's whenever I told her. I'm getting teary-eyed now thinking about it because, that hurts. It hurts mentally. And whenever you feel like you don't have the people there that's supposed to help you on your side, you feel like your back is against the wall. And whenever somebody says, oh, you're strong enough to push yourself. Yeah, you're feeling lightheaded. You can pass out. Somebody will see you. Wow. That's not something you tell a patient, That's not something you tell me. I'm going to go and I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to get the action done and make sure that every time I need to go see my baby, being that I couldn't at the time take myself, that I'm going to be able to do it, So, yeah. I saw it both ways. I saw different maternal fetal medical doctors who were, I had a Black female and the rest were white males, and the bedside was completely different. One white male, he was very good with it. The other ones were like, we're gonna take your baby if you have another headache. And I'm like, oh my God, baby, tell them, check my blood pressure before the doctors come in, because afterwards, it's up, with that news.
Right, Miss Kimberly?
So I think that what I want to say ties into both what Dr. Smith and Carrie said. And one thing, number one, is vote, right? People have to vote because we haven't delved a lot in this discussion into systemic racism and why premature birth and NICU admission rates are what they are in our city, in our state, and in our region. But it is often the root causes of the disparities that we see and why so many Black women give birth prematurely. And, so therefore more Black and brown babies are in the NICU as a result. And the only way to change that is to vote for representatives that take things like that seriously and want to make some changes, through the laws. That's the way that you change systemic racism. And on the second side of that, what Carrie showed us is the importance of being an advocate for yourself. Mothers have to absolutely advocate for themselves and their babies. You know your body best. So yes, a doctor or a nurse has had advanced training and medical degrees, and they're the experts in their field, but you're the expert in your own body. And so you know when something is not right, you know when you're being treated unfairly, and you have to follow that voice and speak up for yourself. I think it's even more imperative when you take that advocacy role for your baby, because when a baby is in the NICU, they can't speak up for themselves. And so I've heard from, parents that have actually saved their own babies' lives because they kept pushing the issue about what they were observing with their baby in the NICU. And so, again, even though doctors and nurses are around and they have this particular medical knowledge, you're the expert in your baby, you're your baby's parent. And, they're seeing lots of babies all day, every day, but you're seeing one baby all day, every day. And so you'll recognize some changes or questions that you have. They deserve to be answered. And so I think as mothers, as women, as Black women, we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our children, we owe it to our communities to be involved in advocacy at every level, from, voting in elections to being advocates and voting in our own lives, having our voices being heard for the health and safety of ourselves, for our health, and for the health and safety of our baby's health as well.
Right, that is so true. I know, speaking of the racism part, I was born in 74, and I was born to a teenage mother, and our family was originally from New Orleans, had been in New Orleans all our lives, but when my grandparents retired, they moved to Mississippi, and my grandmother had, my mom couldn't have me in Mississippi. They had to actually drive me to New Orleans because she was preemie. I would have been a preemie. Okay, I'm trying to tell the story from a third person, but because at that time they did not. It was, even though we were beyond the laws where Blacks and whites couldn't be in the same place, the racism was still there. It was legal that she could get medical attention, but then they would do it a different way. Well, because she's 15, we can't see her here. And so my grandmother, she told me, and my grandmother was a NICU nurse at Charity. So what happened, on the way to take my mom to the hospital to have me, I was born in the car because I didn't want to wait. I was like, hey, I'm ready now. And so my grandmother actually delivered me. And I tell people all the time, I truly believe, that was part of, she was denied healthcare because of her race, because there were other girls her age, but they weren't Black. So that she was denied healthcare. And through that process, praise the Lord, that I survived. And my grandmother just so happened to be a nurse. I feel like the Lord put it on her heart to be a nurse because he knew we were going to be in that situation. And so she was the NICU nurse at Charity. So everything NICU, I'm all ears. And until if I wouldn't have met Demetrice, I wouldn't have known anything about Saul's Light. So it kind of all just ties back. And I was just excited because I was like, oh, there is something that actually exists. I do have another question I want to ask Ms. Demetrice. What happens when the experience doesn't have a lighter note, like we all hear, even though we have our losses, we do have children now? What happened to those mothers that have not gotten to do that? What is some of your advice? Some of them do want to try again. Some of them, what are some alternatives for them?
Definitely, I think for moms who do want to try it again, to make sure that you're ready to do this process again, that no one's pressuring you to do it, that you do it in your own timing is certainly going to be huge, and key to that you have processed. And the first part of the death, and you've done your counseling, and you have that support circle around you, because there's still no guarantees that the next one will be successful. So you can't just say, okay, well, I've had one loss and now I'm not going to have any more. Well, I've had 4 losses. I'm blessed that I have 3 babies here, but I have 4 in heaven. So it's not to say that the road will still be easy for you, but definitely making sure that you have the emotional and the mental wellness that needs to be there for you. Physically, that you're doing everything that you need to do physically. I think that's the easiest part to maintain is the physical part, your nutrition, your health and well-being, making sure that you're at a healthy weight, stop non-healthy habits. So whether you smoke or you drink, those are big contributors for prematurity. So making sure that you're not doing any of those things when you're ready to conceive. Again, those are going to go a long way. If you have diabetes or high blood pressure, making sure that that is well controlled. If you're on medicines, making sure that your provider switches you to something that's compatible with pregnancy. So all of those things are going to play a key role into moving on to the next step. And I think for me, once I got my mental piece kind of in place, physically, I think what's fine is, making sure that my faith and my emotional well-being was where it needed to be was a big key for me to be able to move forward. It's like, okay, I will try it again. And no matter what the consequence or the outcome will be, I'm still going to trust in God. I'm still going to, have faith in God. It won't turn me around, but then, I'm better prepared. I'm better educated and I know the statistics. I know, the systemic racism. I know the odds are against you as a Black woman, but knowing those things and doing, what you think in spite of, and just doing the best that you can do.
All right, thank you. So right before the ladies are going to come, they're going to give us their final, their closing remarks or their final words of encouragement or whatever they want to share with us. If you guys have an event coming up or something that you want to highlight, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to take about a minute to do that. But right before we do that, I kind of want to give you guys a quick commercial. Join us next week on Ask the Experts, 11 o'clock a.m. Central. We are going to talk about the game of credit, personal and business credit. And a lot of times people don't realize a lot of the things that they're denied of is because they don't know the rules. Credit is sort of a game, if you would like to say. And in order to win, you need to know the rules, and you need to know the qualification. There are laws that protect us as consumers. There are laws that protect us as business owners in regards to our credit on base of our social security number or our EIN number. We're gonna have a team of credit experts from around the country. I have some credit counselors that are gonna be on here. It's gonna be about 7 of us at the AK Legacy Foundation. We are big about financial literacy, so next week it's gonna be jam-packed. If you don't know or if you think you know everything about credit, you definitely want to tune in, and this will be an episode that you want to share. So tune in with us next week as we talk about credit for personal and for business. All right, so we'll start with Ms. Carey and then Ms. Kimberly and then Dr. Demetrice Schmidt. If you guys can give some closing remarks.
Hi, everyone, again. Thanks, for having me again. And I just want to say, trust. Everybody's just been stressing to just trust in God with going through your next pregnancy, going through your next challenge. Go out there and vote. And you can follow me on Instagram at Beauty is Carrie M. That's KH as in happy, ERI. I put it in the chat too. But get out there and vote and do what you need to do for yourself to get yourself prepared for that next big blessing that you have. That's what I'm doing right now, getting myself mentally prepared. And thank you again for having me. I'm just happy.
Thank you. I really appreciate your energy, and I just love everything. She got on my favorite color. I mean, what's not to love? All right, Miss Kimberly.
Yes, thank you also for having me. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy conversations that, I feel like expresses the warmth of our village. And so just to be all together, you know, talking and having these meaningful conversations means a lot. I wanted to say follow Saul's Light on social media. It's Saul's_light on IG. And so you'll learn about all the special events that we have planned during September, which is NICU Awareness Month. And so we're going to kick off those special events this Saturday with yoga for stress relief. That's going to be hosted by the Omwell and Valerie Macmillan. And so that's for current NICU parents, former NICU parents, but also healthcare providers that are dealing with stress. That's going to be followed by Ask a NICU Parent featuring Miss Carrie Monks and also Clinton. And then we're going to have a Bali Knot giveaway on the 26th, where NICU families can vote for their NICU to receive a special giveaway from the Bali Knot. And then on the 30th, which is NICU Awareness Day, we're going to have an expert panel featuring healthcare providers, families, and advocates talking about the NICU journey in New Orleans specifically.
All right. Right before Dr. Demetrice comes on, you know, you guys just don't know. You know, I have these shows, and a lot of times I'm just sort of like a facilitator and not necessarily a viewer. I'm just more so just kind of here to make sure everything goes right. But I would like to say that today was definitely for me because I'm born and raised in New Orleans. My heart is in the city. And to know that Saul's Light is there doing some things. So I'm definitely personally will be getting connected. I'm going to harass Dr. Demetrice for your information when we get offline. And I'm going to call you and we're going to, you know, kind of talk about some things. And then, of course, I need to get with you anyway, because we have the donation for July. I need the contact information of where to send it and all that. And it's just so funny how we're here. And so Dr. Demetrice, your final closing remark, words of encouragement, announcement, whatever you want to say.
Like, I definitely appreciate you even having this platform to allow this conversation to happen, just because so many people don't have this conversation, or we don't even realize how many people in the Black community have experienced loss or experienced prematurity until we've actually entered into that situation ourselves. And even those that are in your close circle, I didn't realize how many of my close circle friends had actually experienced this until I actually had a loss or, you know, had a miscarriage. So definitely I appreciate this platform and that you're allowing us the space and the opportunity to present this. My final thoughts, definitely vote, go complete that census.
I'm make sure I tag you when I vote. I'm gonna be like, forget everything. I need to let Dr. Demetrice know I voted. Get a picture of me.
Please do. So vote, complete your census, and then, you know, I would encourage you that if you have gone through a bereavement situation or a preterm situation, or have someone that's in the NICU, that you know, are not afraid to seek that mental counseling or that emotional counseling to help with your mental and wellness and your healing. Because if you're not healing, then you're not going to be able to be that functional member like you need to be. So definitely, you know, making sure that you have that mental, emotional wellness in place. And then the last big thing, Carrie and Kimberly hit on it as well, is that patient advocacy piece. If you are not being treated the way that you need to be treated in the hospital setting, whether it's with a provider, in the clinic, in the hospital, postpartum, wherever it is, just because you're pregnant or you just had a child does not negate your right you know, to speak up for yourself. So making sure that you advocate for yourself, you reach out to that patient advocacy department if things are not going the way that they should, so that you can give them the chance to correct it.
Right, thank you. Well, my closing remarks, I just want to give you guys some hope. Like I said, I was a preemie. I was born at 3 pounds and 2 ounces. My daughter actually lost weight when she was born because she was a preemie. She got down to 2 pounds and something. I want to say that the grandbaby was full term, all the way full term, and was born healthy. So the cycle did stop, and I believe that came from prayer, and it came from being an advocate. I was that grandmom at the doctor visits, asking all the questions, you know, because a lot of times they don't realize we're asking from a place of experience. We're not just trying to be difficult. So don't worry about being given the tag or the label of the angry Black woman. This is your body. You know, and sometimes it's out of fear. But so we want to make sure that you guys have a platform. If you need to ask questions, reach out to these ladies, follow them on social media. They did put the information in the chat. If you did not get the information, or if you're watching the replay, because this will be replayed on YouTube as well as on the website. If you're watching a replay and you need information, send us an email at the aklegacyfoundation.org. You can email us at info@aklegacy.org, or simply go on our website and go to contact us. Any information that you need, and we will be sure to get it to you. And we will even aid in assisting you, whether it's directly or indirectly by a means of referral. So I want to thank our panelists once again. Let me check the chats real quick, ladies, before I let you go. And I also want to thank all of our viewers. Carrie says, be as picky about your health care as we are about who does our hair. Carrie, I am having this is the bad hair day. You know, like my hair didn't come out like I wanted to. So I flicked it in a ponytail, and I said, well, it looks like I don't have any hair. I said, but oh well, you know, so I totally get it. How picky I was about my hair, I am about my hair. We should be the same way about our healthcare. Come on, ladies. Y'all know if our outfit or if our hair is not right, how we cut up. So we should do the same thing about our healthcare. That is so funny, Carrie. Thank you. We needed that laugh. So serious. Oh, hey, unmute him, Dr. Demetrice. Hey, how are you, sir?
What's up, my girl? Love you.
I told your wife you're the best. She was the best thing ever happened to you. I mean,
absolutely. I'll kick my coverage.
Look, God just smiled on you and said, "Let me bless this boy."
More than I deserve. That's what grace looks like.
Yes. I told her, if you watch the replay, I said, we know that there's a God, because
absolutely. I'm telling you.
Love you, my brother. Love you, my brother.
Love you. This is what grace looks like in Laplace.
I am so proud. I am so proud of your wife. I am so thankful that she took time out of the schedule to help us. And thank you for the divine connection. Thank you.
Absolutely. He took our misery and gave us a ministry.
Look, hey, that's the way he does it. That's the way he does it. Thank you. That was so cool. So I want to encourage all of our viewers to go and follow us on social media as well. And come back next week at 11 o'clock. Go to our Instagram, leave a comment about today's show. You'll see the flyer in the post, ask questions. And we're going to tag Miss Carrie, Miss Kimberly. We're going to make sure that this is not a one-day thing. This is going to be ongoing. So I want to say thank you all. God bless you all. I pray that everyone that is viewing, that you are blessed, that you get the answers to your question, and that you remember that God loves you, and so do we. God be blessed. Bye-bye.